Hey, it's NPR's Book of the Day. I'm Andrew Limbong. Time feels different inside a boxing ring. I've never even sparred against another person, but when I used to hit up a boxing gym, 3 minutes in the ring with the trainer felt elastic. Like it lasted forever, but when it was over, it felt like not nearly enough time. Rita Bullwinkel is on the pod today. Her new novel is titled Headshot, and in it, she tries to play with time in a similar way through the structure of the book. It's about these teenage girl boxers who bring all of their baggage into the ring, and in this interview with NPR's Scott Simon, she talks about how a fight is its own form of communication. That's after the break.
This message comes from Apple Card. You earn up to 3% daily cash on every purchase. That's 3% on products at Apple, 2% on all other Apple Card with Apple Pay purchases, and 1% on anything you buy with your titanium Apple Card or virtual card number. Visit apple.co/card calculator to see how much you can earn. Apple Card issued by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, Salt Lake City branch. Subject to credit approval. Terms apply. Support for NPR and the following message come from the Lemelson Foundation, dedicated to improving lives through invention, innovation, and climate action.
Headshot is a knockout of a novel. It follows the hearts, minds, and gloved knuckles of 8 teenage girls in the 12th annual Women's 18 and Under Daughters of America Cup, which takes place at Bob's Boxing Palace in Reno, which, let's put it this way, is not the Sphere in Las Vegas. The contestants have both a lot in common and just about nothing. In her short, heart-punching novel, Rita Bullwinkel manages to capture the girls and scenes and phrases from childhood into the ring, then out into that bigger ring called life. Rita Bullwinkel is an assistant professor of English at the University of San Francisco and also the new editor of McSweeney's Quarterly. Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh my gosh, Scott, thank you so much for having me.
What drew you into this world?
I grew up as a competitive youth athlete. I've never been a boxer. I'm not a boxer, but I was a very competitive water polo player. I was the co-captain of a D1 team. And from the age of about 12, most of my youth was shaped by driving kind of all over the country to tournaments that looked very much like the tournament in this book. The thing that made me really feel like I had access to this world of youth women's boxing was when I found this trove of what were essentially training videos on YouTube of young women who were recording themselves for hours at a time. And it was through these videos, these long unedited training videos, that I felt like I could see myself in these young women, and I felt like I had access to them and their experience.
Let me ask you about some of the characters, and I want to begin with Andy Taylor. And as a reader, you worry that she doesn't seem to care if she lives or dies, much less wins or loses, because she feels guilt about something.
She does feel that way. She was a lifeguard, and she witnessed and was on duty when a young child drowned. And I think that this question haunts her: is she responsible for this child's death? And it's a kind of haunting that will never leave her, that's here with her in the boxing match, that's present with her as she fights, but it'll be present with her for the rest of her life. We all carry around things like that. And I think that something really strange and alchemical happens when you're using your body for something really difficult, where your unconscious goes to like uncontrollable places, essentially. And the things that haunt you can kind of come to the surface. And it seemed to me for her as a character that it felt true to her lived experience and how she fought as a boxer, that she would be haunted by this and would be unable to not think about it while she was boxing.
Let me ask you to read a section, and it's two opponents, Rachel DeRico and Kate Heffer, in the ring, and we'll warn people, this might be tough to hear.
Rachel's pounded veal legs are glistening. Sweat has pasted her hair to her temples. She's standing taller than Kate, so her headgear looks grand, like the tallest building in a cityscape whose backdrop is the sea. Reno's midday light filters in through the skylight of Bob's Boxing Palace and sits on the heads of the onlookers. In their scattered chairs and leaning and standing poses, the onlookers look like court of law witnesses. Rachel DeRico wishes someone would interview them after. Did you see it? Rachel would ask them. Did you see Kate Heffer counting to nowhere? Did you hear that Rachel called Kate a good boy and that neither of the girls wanted to be good dogs, and the way that Rachel made Kate chomp on pennies until all that was left in Kate Heffer's mouth was a hole of broken teeth?
What's going on inside is almost as, inside their minds and hearts, is almost as tough to hear as what's going on in the ring, isn't it?
It's true. There is some joy in the book, too. I mean, that's a brutal section where, Rachel is kind of fantasizing about physical glory of her opponents. But I'd like to think that there are sections of the book where I allow the young women moments of future joy or imagined joy as well. What do you think, Scott?
Oh, I think there were, which brings up, you tell us what happens to them later in life. We don't have to wait for an epilogue.
No.
Why did you decide to do that?
I think that one of the really magical things that fiction can do is really move in extraordinary ways with time. I think about stories like Primo Levi's Distant Star, and I knew that the space of the boxing match, something I really liked about it, about having this space where each chapter was essentially a portrait of two women fighting against each other that are not speaking to each other, but are engaging with each other in a nonverbal way, that it could allow me this kind of like extraordinary movement in time backwards and forwards. And the book, begins with an epigraph of kind of like the first recorded instance of young women playing sports. And it ends somewhere really, really distant, far out in space.
Yeah. What is hard to read? So many of the young women later in their lives can't use their hands.
Yes.
Because they were boxers.
It's true. I mean, one of my hopes for this book is that, if you are a boxer, you will find authenticity in this book, or maybe also anyone who's ever been driven to try something very difficult and to put all of their heart into it will also see themselves in these pages. And I think that when you form your whole identity around something, whether it be a physical sport or something else, that identity and your experience of doing whatever that activity is can leave a really strange archive in your body, whether it's like an injury that you live with forever or something else bodily within you, a tic or a habit. I think about the way the body changes with really adept musicians. If you're someone who's always been a violinist, if you stop playing violin, your body is still shaped by the many, many hours you spent on earth playing violin, and you posture yourself differently because of that. And so I was kind of interested in that archive of the body and the way sports injuries have this really strange experience of living on far beyond, in some cases, when you've left that identity behind.
Do these characters go on with you?
I do still think about them. It's a maximalist cast, right? There are 8 young women characters. And I really think of each of them as being both me and not me, and that each of them have a little bit of my biography, and they all are kind of endowed with my own lived experience, and whether it be a love or some intense pain or some joy. So I do think about them sometimes. They're still with me. They're hanging around.
Rita Bullwinkel, her first novel, Headshot. Thanks so much for being with us.
Oh, Scott, thank you so much for having me.
What does it mean to be Black in America? In NPR's Black Stories, Black Truths, a collection of stories as varied, nuanced, and dynamic as Black experiences, you'll hear it means everything. Search NPR Black Stories, Black Truths wherever you get your podcasts.
This message comes from NPR sponsor Total Wine & More. With so many great bottles to choose from at the lowest price, it's easy to find your favorite Cabernet or a new single-barrel bourbon to try with some help from one of their friendly guides. With the lowest prices for over 30 years, find what you love and love what you find, only at Total Wine & More. Curbside pickup and delivery available in most areas. Visit TotalWine.com to learn more. Spirits not sold in Virginia and North Carolina. Drink responsibly. B21. This message comes from NPR sponsor Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. Breast cancer cells multiply faster because of CDK4/6 proteins. But what if blocking those proteins and stopping runaway cell division was possible? Dana-Farber scientists laid the foundation for CDK4/6 inhibitors, new drugs that are increasing the survival rate for many advanced breast cancers. Dana-Farber's momentum of discovery keeps finding new ways to outmaneuver cancer. More at danafarber.org/everywhere.